Good morning, Fishmonger here. I got a inbox email this morning I thought was pretty dang interesting. I wanted to share it with you. It's actually not this picture. This picture is just how wiring should not be, and if anybody ever tells you this is the right way to wire things up, you should just slowly back away and try to avoid that person forever. But I ended up getting this email this morning from Newegg, bringing me to this link saying that a sale is going to be ending in 2 days on these Power Color RX 580s, $439. Now, I can tell you right now, these are probably going to sell out before 2 days, because that's actually a pretty good price for these devices, given the fact that everything else that is listed for this item is incredibly higher. However, in my mind, this is still an inflated price and is still much higher than it should be, but when I'm thinking, I totally reminded myself of that guy from The Simpsons. I forgot his name, but you know what I'm talking about. Would you like fries with that? Um, the uh, the train of thought that I had is just gone now. It just left the station. But this is a good price. It's not bad. I mean, if you got to buy one of these things right now and you can't wait, $439 ain't too shabby. I'm gonna bookmark this, and I'm just gonna kind of keep an eye on it, and I got a feeling it's gonna sell out way before 2 days from now. But just wanted to bring this up. But in other news, I've got my second rig pretty much rolling here, and this is kind of where I'm at with it, which isn't too shabby as far as I'm concerned. I got my power buttons hooked up, all set, my power supply all tangled, or not tangled in, but it's all nestled in there, nice and neat. I did some really nice cable management on this, and I wanted to show you this because I had a much I wanted to keep the cables nice and neat, so I was very proud of this. I had a couple of interesting innovations here I wanted to share with you. So here's a different angle. You can just kind of see the front of this and how this works out, and want to spotlight this. I'm probably gonna have some other video or photos of this here, but neat idea I had. It just so happens, totally coincidental, that the cable risers here, if I brought the cables straight up, they basically went right in front of this piece of wood. And this piece of wood was the front piece that holds all the cards in place. So I kind of use that. I know a lot of people just kind of like loop the cables up and go around. I use this to my advantage. I said, you know what? I don't want these risers getting bumped around or have any issues with them. So I brought the cable straight up. I cut a little plank of wood that basically just kind of screws into this front piece and puts a little bit of pressure on the cables just to hold them in place. So if I'm doing anything in the back, or if the cables get bumped to the back, it doesn't move these risers. And it worked out really, really nice. Side shot, so you can see my cables here at the back don't really extend out too far. Here's a back shot. And one thing I'm very, very, very adamant about is using a lot of zip ties. I have a bag of like 4,000 of these things, so for me to throw 100 on here is not an issue. There's nowhere near 100, but I like my cables tighty, so you can see I've got like 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There's probably like 25 or 30 cables zip ties on here, but you know, it really adds a nice dimension as far as cable management goes. I had this SATA cable here. It actually had 4 ports. There's the 4th port right there, but I didn't want to put too much load on this, so I plugged 3 of the 6-pin PCIe to SATA connectors on here, and just kind of put that on the bottom. I ran that first. I got my power cord, which comes up here from the motherboard and kind of like loops right in. Here's the other power cord from the motherboard that kind of comes around. I didn't have enough slack to bring it back here, so I basically just kind of routed it in between my power cord and the memory. It's a pretty good amount of space in there. The SATA cable, I think I got another picture of this. The SATA cable from the hard drive that's back here actually comes up, and it's zip tied right to this. So this looks like one black cable here. It's actually 2, and then you can see it breaks off and then kind of loops off into the motherboard. So it's pretty nice. It's tidy. Definitely not that computer system you saw before. Here's a 45-degree angle shot. You can see of all the cables and how they kind of follow some nice lines going into the cards. Top-down shot, so you can see the cables coming off from the front here. They loop over the first piece of wood and then under, and they basically come up and around. And that helps get rid of some of the slack, but then also kind of puts a little bit of tension on them just so they're not flopping around. I mean, they're not pulling on, it's not like they're tight, but there's no loose slack on there. And that's kind of really what you want when you're doing cables. Here's a front shot. You can see, again, the risers and the cables all go nice and straight up and just kind of like tuck in between this piece of wood here and then this piece of wood, which worked out really, really well. Another front shot so you can see the cables themselves and how they, as they come up, I zip tie them and kind of have them come around. So it's looking pretty good there. Here's a shot that shows the cables themselves in the back where the power supply is, and you can see how I've got this cable here. This is one of the power cables that comes down. Had a lot of slack in it, and something I tried instead of doing a whole bunch of folds is I took it and I kind of looped it around once all these other cables. So it serves two functions. One, the loop gets rid of the slack, and then two, it helps hold all these other cables in place. So I thought that was kind of a nifty solution. It doesn't quite follow the flow of everything else here with the folds and the 90-degree angles and everything, but it worked, and I kind of liked it. I may use that in some other builds or some other cable management techniques that I use moving forward. Here's the right side in more detail, so you can see again the power cable coming up behind the memory, and then the zip ties I got on that. You know, one of the nice things about keeping all your cables all nice and neat is that you leave yourself the ability to have a lot more air flow around your electronics, because the cables are not blocking anything. Basically, they're all out of the way. They don't impede the flow of air. Here's a shot in the back. Not much I can do here with the power cords that comes out of the what is that? The tops of the motherboard, or the tops of the power. They're video cards. The tops of the video cards. So pretty much just plugs in, comes up over, plugs in there, and then I just loop that back down there. It's, you know, adds a little height. I mean, I could bring this down. I don't have issues with that. So, oh, okay. Here's another problem I came across. And this was an issue. See if I can zoom in here. I don't know how well this is going to come in. This is actually going to work out pretty good. This caused such a headache. So many problems. I don't even know what to tell you how angry I feel right now. I should have inspected my electronics before I installed everything. I didn't, because I haven't had a problem until now. But now I've learned a lesson, and hopefully you can take something from this. You know those $4 or $5, $6, $7 risers you buy from pretty much anywhere, and some people say, they're great, some people say, they're crap, and, you know, it's kind of luck of the draw. Well, it's luck of the draw, and this to me shows me that there is no such thing as quality control in whatever company made this, because had any kind of quick 5-second electrical or 5-second visual inspection looked at this, you could have easily seen that there's no more than 6 electrical shorts on the back of this board. And I don't know the amount of damage that my motherboard has right now from this. Hopefully none. I'm now having to go through and check each individual socket on my motherboard one at a time with a video card, one at a time, and switch around the cables one at a time to see what is damaged and what isn't, and it sucks, but that's the way the cookie crumbles. And here's the same guy from a different angle, and I mean, just look at that. Look at that. How do you not... I can see that from a mile away. How does somebody not see that from half a mile away, or even a foot away, if you're holding that and you're building these things? Well, you don't see it if you're not looking. So my big advice to anybody who's going to be doing anything with these rigs, and you get these boards in, do a quick visual inspection on the solder joints. It takes 5 seconds. Verify everything looks good before you start throwing it in your rig. And, you know, it sucks to have to go and do an installation one at a time with your boards, but I would highly recommend install one riser, install one board, do a boot up, check it, make sure it's good. Install another riser, install another board, do a boot up, check it, make sure it's good. One at a time. You throw all 5 in there at once, and then you have an issue with one, or it's an intermittent issue with one. You have no idea which one it is now. Now you have to take everything back apart, and you have to then go through and just do it all one at a time. So you might as well just do it all one at a time first and save yourself the hassle. It's a little bit, longer in the beginning. You may get lucky and all 5 are good, and that's great, but you're just better off just doing them all one at a time. Because you may have an issue like this, which is not only did one of my boards suck, but multiple boards sucked. Look at this. I have another short here between those two. Another short here between those two. I just started shaking my head in disbelief that I couldn't believe that these things, in a batch of 5 that I got, I had 3 that had definite problems. This one here I suspected had an issue, but I couldn't really tell. My eyes are not as good as they used to be. But, it was just absolutely heartbreaking that I had this problem. And I am going to have a very nice, polite email the company I bought these from, requesting my money back, at least, because with the amount of work that I've had to go through for this, they should definitely give me that. And if there is any damage to my motherboard, I'm going to be chewing them out for that too, because there's absolutely zero reason for this to be happening. Should not be having this happen at all. So, thankfully, I own a soldering gun or soldering iron, and I was able to, I think, fix the joints on this. But I don't know what kind of damage may have happened to my board, and hopefully not to the video cards. It was the way I realized there was an issue is I kept on trying to turn my computer off, and it would never turn off. It would shut off and then quick turn back on again, and I'm like, what the heck? I thought it was something wrong with my Windows installation. And then one of the things I remembered is every once in a while, when I was installing a board, one of these riser boards, even with the computer turned off, but the power supply on, so there's power going into the power supply, but it was physically, the unit was turned off. When I plugged one of these risers in, the computer would just spontaneously turn on. I'm like, what the hell? That shouldn't be happening. You should be able to plug a board in and not have the computer turn on. And apparently it was turning on because the motherboard was receiving a short signal from one of these risers. And I didn't put 2 and 2 together until that time. So if you're, just a note, if you plug in one of these boards and your motherboard turns on when you do that, it shouldn't be doing that. It's likely you've got a bad board somewhere either on this side of the riser or the other side, which is the side that the video card actually plugs into. So I'm out for now. I'm going to be doing some more troubleshooting. So hopefully I get everything fixed. This is such a nightmare. Oh, and snag up some of these video cards while you can. They are probably not going to be lasting long. I'll catch you later. Ciao.